Pranam mantra. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha kalpadarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamin iti namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschyata Deshatanine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate giram yat kripatamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hare Krishna. So today's shloka is shloka number 17 of chapter 5. Chapter 5 is titled Dhyana Karma Sannyasa Yoga. So up until now, we have understood knowledge about the difference between the body and the soul, who's Ishvara, what is Prakriti, and also what is Karma. So now, in continuation with the theme of knowledge, we'll look at what is the Lord saying in shloka 17. So we'll recite the shloka a few times, and then we can practice it together. Tad buddhayastadatmanas tannishtha tatparayanah gacchantya punaravrittim jnana nirdhuta kalmashah. Tad buddhayastadatmanas tannishtha tatparayanah gacchantya punaravrittim jnana nirdhuta kalmashah. Tad buddhayastadatmanas tannishtha tatparayanah gacchantya punaravrittim jnana nirdhuta kalmashah. Please recite after me. Tad buddhayastadatmanas tannishtha tatparayanah gacchantya punaravrittim jnana nirdhuta kalmashah. Tad buddhayastadatmanas tannishthastatparayanah gacchantya punaravrittim jnana nirdhuta kalmashah. Tad buddhayastadatmanas Tannishthas-tatparayanaha Gacchantya punaravrittim
Gacchantya punaravrittim
Jnana nirdhuta kalmashaha.
Jnanargota kalmashaha.
Word for word meaning and translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Tad buddhayaha.
Tadbuddhayaha.
Those whose intelligence is always in the Supreme.
Those whose intelligence is always in supreme.
Tad atmanaha.
Tat padmanaha.
Those whose minds are always in the Supreme.
Those whose minds are always in supreme.
Tat nishthaha.
Taha.
Those whose faith is only meant for the Supreme.
Those faith is only meant for the supreme.
Tat parayanaha.
Parayanaha.
Who have completely taken shelter of Him.
Who have completely taken shelter of Him.
Gachanti.
Gacchandi.
Go. Apunah avrittim.
Avrittim.
To liberation. Jnana.
Jnana.
By knowledge.
Knowledge.
Nirdhuta. Cleansed. Kalmashaha.
Kalmashaha.
Misgivings.
Misgivings.
Translation. When one's intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge are all fixed in the Supreme,
are all fixed in the Supreme,
then one becomes fully cleansed
one becomes fully cleansed
of misgivings
of misgivings
through complete knowledge, and thus proceeds straight on the path of liberation.
the path of liberation.
So what is the Lord saying? After you have knowledge of various facets of how the universe operates, of your position in relation to Paramatma, what happens? There are 4 things that are influenced by this knowledge. You see, knowledge leads to clarity of thought. When you have clarity of thought, it leads to commitment to a particular aspect or particular path. So here, knowledge is influencing 4 aspects. Tad buddhayaha. So the first thing that the knowledge influences is that your intelligence gets fixed up in the Supreme Lord. You are fully convinced, and therefore you use your intelligence to gain more and more understanding and commitment to the Supreme Lord. Tad atmanaha. So the word Atma has many meanings in Sanskrit. Atma sometimes means the body, sometimes it means the soul, sometimes it means intelligence, and sometimes it means the mind. Since the Lord has already used the word buddhaya for intelligence, and He's talking about things that are on a subtle platform, we understand that here, when the Lord is talking about Atma, He is not referencing to the soul specifically. He is referencing to our minds. So your intelligence is fixed up in the Supreme Lord, your mind is fixed up in the Supreme Lord. And what happens further? Your faith also becomes fixed up in Lord Krishna. Tat nishthaha. Your faith becomes firm. You are no longer confused about who is the Supreme Lord. Is He like this white light, or does He have form? these things are already clarified for you, or rather you have that clarity. The more you listen, the more you obtain this transcendental knowledge, the more clarity that you get. This clarity leads you to have faith in the Supreme Lord. And then what happens? Tat parayanaha. Then it's easy for you to surrender to him, to be completely in his shelter. And when these four things are fixed up, what happens? Gachanti. Gachanti means to achieve here. Apuna avrittam. Puna avrittam means to come back. Apuna avrittam means you will not come back. What is this? You will not come back. You will not come back into this process, in this cycle of repeated birth and death. So if these four things are situated in the Supreme, then it leads to liberation. And what is this knowledge actually doing? This knowledge is cleansing you of all of your misinformation and also your anarthas. Of course, the anarthas gets cleansed when you practice your sadhana. So this knowledge is actually wiping out all of the dirt in your mind, in your intelligence, and ultimately in your consciousness. So nirdhuta, the word dhuta means to bathe. So here, cleansed kalmashaha means any doubts that you have is completely wiped out. So this is the benefit of constantly hearing about the Supreme Lord. You are convinced that he is not just this white light. Yes, he does have this Brahman aspect as well, but that's just an impartial aspect of the Lord. It's an impartial understanding of the Supreme Lord. A complete understanding of the Supreme Lord is that he has a form as Bhagavan. So which we already discussed in chapter 2, the 3 levels of realization. The first level of realization is that the Lord has his Brahman feature, which is represented by the effulgence emanating from his body. And then, of course, you have the Paramatma feature of the Lord, where you understand that the Lord is always there with you. He is accompanying you wherever you go in this material world. Even though you are a prisoner in this material world, the Lord does not let you go. He's always there for you. Paramatma does not exist in the spiritual world, but Paramatma is not material. Paramatma is still spiritual because he is a plenary portion of the Supreme Lord. But he only exists as long as you are there in this material world. The minute you enter the spiritual world, then Bhagavad takes over. Paramatma doesn't accompany you into the spiritual world. There's no need for Paramatma in the spiritual world. Paramatma is there as a guide, as Chaitya Guru, to guide you. And then, of course, the Bhagavan realization, which is the most complete realization of the Supreme Lord. So this is the benefit of having and understanding this transcendental knowledge. 4 things get fixed up: your intelligence, your mind, your faith, and your process of taking shelter in the Supreme Lord. So this is the understanding of this particular shloka. In tomorrow's shloka, we will talk about the benefit of these 4 things being fixed up.